July, July, July. This is definitely the month to slow down, enjoy your summer energy, and really take heed to what things start to fall off in your life, what new adventures or intuitive and instinctual inclinings start to come to you because we have major planet retrogrades and shifts happening during this month. Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, Hidden Alchemy by Sade. My name is Sade, and it is always great pleasure for me to do these astrology readings for you all, just so you know what's going on in the stars and how you can use what's going on astrologically to really work in your favor, and more importantly, to see how folks are using the astrology on you. Now, if it is your first time here, welcome. If not, welcome back. Always a pleasure being here. Let's go ahead and dive deep into the astrology of July. And of course, before I dive in, if you ever need to reach out to see where this is taking place in your chart specifically, you can always head over to my website, hiddenalchemybysade.com, or just send me an email at info@hiddenalchemybysade.com, and we can go ahead and do a chart reading for you. Now, let's go ahead and dive into July. July is definitely, there's a lot happening in July. And because there's so much happening in July, it is the summer month, depending on where you are in the hemisphere. It's summer over here for us. I know it's winter over there for other folks. So either way, summer and winter are always mirroring each other. That's the thing about the equinoxes and the solstice. They mirror each other. So summer and winter are times to slow things down and take a breath and rest and be at ease, especially if you're here on this side of the hemisphere. I'm based in New York, so we are experiencing, just came off of a crazy heat wave, which was literally informing us energetically that this summer is going to be the summer to slow down. So let's go ahead and dive into why. So starting off on July 4th, we have Venus, the planet of love, of not expansion, but creative expression, currency, relationships, contracts, balance, moving into the playful, fun, energetic sign of Gemini. And whenever we have anything in the sign of Gemini, it is asking us to create ideas and connect with people that kind of have similar ideas as us. But because Gemini is mutable in its air, Gemini can connect to any group of people, any type of people, but it's really about creating from our ideas, connecting, socializing, gathering information, and really just having a good time, being in a state of pleasure, but pleasure of the mind. So expect with Venus and Gemini for your mind to really want to be stimulated, but be mindful of what you are stimulating your mind with. The reason why this is also very important is because we do have Uranus coming together in the sign of Gemini just a few days after, making the big shift from being in Taurus in 2019. So what you really can expect with Venus and Uranus coming together in the sign of Gemini, I have a video on Uranus and Gemini if you want to dive deeper into that. But what you can expect for these two things coming together is there really being a shift on our values and our priorities, and the things that might have mentally stimulated us before might not be mentally stimulating us now. And if you've had an inkling, right, depending on where you have Uranus in your chart, depending on where you have Gemini and Venus in your chart, if you've had an inkling of just a new idea, a new hobby, a new interest really starting to come to the surface for you, as Uranus and Venus kiss in Gemini together, you're really going to start to want to explore that idea even further and have to accept the fact that your priorities are shifting. Venus rules our values and our belief system. When you put it in Gemini and then you put Uranus there, it's a shock. It's a shift to the system, and it can feel uncomfortable. but it's really because we are entering into a new portal. We are entering into a new paradigm and a new way of thinking, because that is just the Gemini energy. So use the month of July to really understand what is starting to shift for you in terms of your priorities, because Uranus is going to go until 2 degrees Gemini and it's going to retrograde back into Taurus. So you're getting your feet wet a little bit here with the astrology for July. Also on the 4th, we have Neptune going retrograde. Okay, so we're starting off the month with a retrograde, which is asking us to pause in the area of our life where we have had the Aries energy. Neptune has only reached 2 degrees Aries, so we just got our feet wet. But if you have been paying attention to the subtlety of this energy and how things have been shifting in the Aries area of your chart, then you already know how Neptune is starting to decrystallize, because whatever Neptune touches, it dissolves. So you already are aware of how Neptune is starting to dissolve the Aries aspect of your chart. But now that it's going retrograde, retrogrades are always opportunities for us to go back and revise and edit an area of our life so that we can be fully prepared for Neptune's official transit back into Aries. Now, Neptune is not going to get back into Aries until about January of next year. So this really gives us the rest of the year to acknowledge how the Aries aspect of our chart is changing, our views on independence, our views on leadership, our views on where we want to have adventure in our life and where we want to set a new track for ourselves. Aries energy is all about setting up a new adventure and going on that adventure with confidence and with courage and leading the way for other people. So Neptune is really shifting where we want to lead and how we should be leading. Following on the 7th, so in the same week span, we have Uranus entering Gemini. Again, I spoke about this before. It'll be there for about 2 degrees of Gemini before it retrogrades back into Taurus. And when we have Uranus in Gemini, I mean, Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. I did a video on this with Uranus in Gemini, so definitely check it out if you want a deeper understanding. But Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. So with Uranus being in Gemini, a mercurial sign, this is going to be the next 5 to 7 years of just huge change and transformation in terms of ideas and inventions. If you are a person that has strong Gemini energy, whether that be a Gemini stellium, a Gemini South node, Gemini North node, Sun, Moon, or Rising in Gemini, this Uranus transit is going to be very impactful and very important for you. So definitely check out my Uranus in Gemini video on my channel. Now, on the 10th, we have the Capricorn full moon, because we are still in Cancer season, even though we're dealing with this air and fire energy with Gemini and Aries. So we have this Capricorn full moon, which is really bringing great practicality to water, the sun being in the sign of Cancer, and Venus and Uranus moving into Gemini, and then Neptune retrograding in Aries. It's bringing us some practicality of, okay, I know that things are changing. I know that there are things that I need to do in order to adapt to these changes. How can I be a practical leader? How can I show up for myself and also show up for the collective good? So whenever we're dealing with a full moon, it's with the sun and the moon in opposition. And in this case, we have the sun in Cancer, the moon in Capricorn. You're dealing with nourishment on a personal home life level. And then you're dealing with nourishment with Capricorn in terms of our duties and responsibilities that we have to give to others. So we're really having to find that balance of how am I nourishing and taking care of myself and my inner child and my emotional body as we move through all of these changes and transformations. And of course, I will do a separate full moon and new moon video so we can dive deeper into what this energy is signifying. Now, following on the 13th, we have another planet stationing retrograde, and that is the planet Saturn. Saturn, the planet of duty, of responsibility, of karma, and of undoing. Saturn is really that planet that wants to give us our greatest desire, but has to mature us before we can get there. And Saturn is retrograding. It's leaving Aries and it's moving back into Pisces, where it's going to meet up with Neptune. So keep in mind what has been shifting for you in the Aries place of your chart. Can't even speak today. The Aries place of your chart, and how has Saturn been pushing you to mature in that area? Now that Saturn is going retrograde, it's like, hold up, there's something that you forgot in the Pisces area of your chart. Okay, there's something you need to revise, there's something you need to edit, there's something you need to fix and change. And that editing is what's going to assist you with us moving full force into Saturn and Aries. And Saturn is going to officially be back in Aries in 2026. So the rest of this year is really a good time to revise, to slow down, and to just go over what has shifted and changed and what still needs to shift and change within ourselves. Now, following the 13th, on the 18th, we have Mercury, the planet of communication, the planet of connection, the planet of information, stationing retrograde. Okay, so there's a lot happening, and Mercury is going to be stationing retrograde in the sign of Leo. So now is a really good time for you to take it easy on matters of the heart, and also communicating the fire behind the matters of your heart. Whenever Mercury is in a fire sign, it prefers to be in air or earth, which is Gemini or Virgo. But when it's in a fire sign, there's a little bit more urgency behind its words, urgency behind its actions. And Mercury is already a very fast moving planet to begin with. So when you put it in air, when you put it in Leo, Leo is a fixed sign that rules the heart. And Leo is very big energy on moving from the heart space, but sometimes can be a little bit prideful in how we move from the heart and how we communicate and express our wants and desires of our heart. So with Mercury going retrograde there, it is an opportunity to slow things down a little bit and see where we might not be being fair. Leo is a fixed sign, so it can be very fixed on what it wants based off of its heart space. With Mercury stationing retrograde, let's see where we can be a little prideful in our life and where we might need to be a little bit more accepting, a little bit more gentler in our approach, and more collective in community. Now, right on after the 18th, on the 22nd, the sun then enters Leo. So this is really giving us an opportunity to go back over the Leo area of our chart. There's something we've missed. And with the sun making an aspect to Mercury, it's literally giving us a second opportunity to move from the heart and see where we have been neglecting our heart space, see where we have been neglecting involving other people in matters of our heart, right? And now that Mercury is retrograde, it's literally giving us, whenever Mercury goes retrograde in the summer, it gives us like an extra 4 weeks of summer energy, because the planet has to retrograde, then it has to stop its retrograde and go back over what we've already went over. So we're getting an extra 4 weeks of Leo energy, which kind of means we're getting an extra 4 weeks of summer energy in a sense. So really pay attention to what is coming up for you in terms of your creative expression or your lack of creative expression, and how you can be in that inner child more. Express yourself freely, but think before you express yourself, because Mercury is retrograde. Now, on the 30th, we also have Chiron, the wounded healer, not necessarily a planet, but an asteroid, which rules an area of our life where we are wounded. Everyone has a Chiron energy, but we've been working on our Chiron in Aries as a collective for quite some time. So on the 30th, Chiron is going to retrograde in Aries. So, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, July is not the month to go full throttle. It is the month to slow things down, because we have so many retrogrades happening, and they're all kind of happening in fire signs. So with that being said, the Chiron retrograde in Aries is literally preparing us to be new leaders in our life by 2026, because that's when Neptune and Saturn will officially be back in Aries. So pay very close attention to where there is a wound for you around your identity and the self, and where you are sabotaging the self. Chiron right now is at about 26 degrees Aries. So we've been working on this for a while. So it's a wound that you're not unfamiliar with. It's something that you already know. And Chiron retrograding is like, hey, this is the last Chiron retrograde in Aries before it moves into Taurus. We will have a retrograde again, and it'll dabble a little bit into Aries, but this is the last one where we're staying in Aries with this retrograde and going further in Aries. So clear up any wounds around identity, any wounds around the self, any wounds around your freedom to express yourself and to move from your fire and to feel powerful and to feel confident on your journey. Like I said, this will be the last Chiron retrograde fully in Aries before we move into Taurus. And Taurus is all about our values and our belief systems, but it starts with the self. And then lastly, on the 31st, to close out the month, we have Venus entering Cancer, which is such a beautiful way to close the month out with all of this change happening, because Venus in Cancer is really bringing to the forefront our emotional needs, our inner child needs, but not the inner child needs of like Leo on a playful level, the inner child needs in terms of our emotions. You know, how are we valuing or devaluing our emotional body? And what is shifting for us in terms of our values and belief systems when it comes to our emotional body? And we need to focus and pay attention on how to best preserve ourselves so that we can show up and be these nurturing leaders and beings for ourselves and for others, because Cancer is also about taking care. Venus in Cancer is also putting in a note on everyone's tab about their home life, right? Where is the aspect of the home, which is Cancer? Where is there a lack of value, which is Venus? Where can we add more value? How can we add more value so that we can feel nourished, we can feel safe, and we can feel protected in our sanctuary? Cancer is all about the nourishment of the home. And the home is not only a physical dwelling, but the home is our body, our mind, and our spirit. So Venus moving into Cancer, closing out the month, is literally preparing us for the month of August of really nourishing and slowing down in all of this retrograde energy. So as I said, y'all, July is a month. However, it is a month to be still with self, be still in joy, be still in your inner child and nourishment, and to remember that nourishing and taking care of yourself is an act of radical self love and self care. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I will have the full moon and new moon videos up very soon, so check those out. And in the meantime, I will catch in with y'all for our next video.